We got two headlines with SBF, so stick with us. The first, the Department of Justice is looking to end SBF's time in his parents' basement and put him to jail. Why? Because he might be tampering with witnesses. That's according to allegations from the Department of Justice, which is seeking right now for SBF to be put in jail until his trial in October. The second headline we have for you is that FTX will not be, or Sam Bankman-Fried rather, will not be charged for campaign finance charges after the extradition from the Bahamas. If you remember, he was extradited from the Bahamas, and there was like 5 original counts, and then later the Department of Justice brought up multiple others. But according to extradition treaties, can't do that. Can't just be slapping on more things you're going to charge someone with. And so they're going to have to pull those back after an agreement with the Bahamas. So 2 fresh SBF headlines this morning. The first one's pretty interesting, tampering with witnesses. Some thoughts on that. He's had over 500 different calls with Michael Lewis, who's writing a book on him, and then 100 different calls with a New York Times reporter that actually released a story relating to his former girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, which is sort of revolving around this whole recent news with the Department of Justice. Can I throw this one back to you, Jen?
Yeah, former girlfriend and former CEO of Alameda Research, those diary entries leaked on the New York Times. She was saying, she didn't feel fit to be in the position that she was in. She also spoke about some of the inner drama that was going on between the two companies. One of my takeaways from this is don't write your innermost thoughts on a Google document. Very surprised to see tech savvy people writing things like this on Google documents that can be accessible by many. But I think this is Sam Bankman-Fried again, desperately trying to control the narrative. I must say allegedly, because his defense, I believe, is saying that he did not leak these diary entries to the New York Times. And I'm surprised that it's continuing on. Every time I talk about the story, I have to bring up that Sam Bankman-Fried is living with his parents, and both of his parents are lawyers. And we just see these very, very surprising actions come from him time and time again. He hasn't been jailed yet. So the timeline here is a quick one. I believe the DOJ has until Friday to make a formal written submission in this request to have him jailed until his trial. The defense can respond until Tuesday, and then by the end of next week, we'll have a final response. It would be an interesting turn of events to see him move from his parents' house to a prison until that October trial. Anna, what do you think?
Well, I was appalled by the story of the diary published, and regardless of who uses what for diaries, if the allegations of the DOJ that it was Sam Bankman-Fried who leaked Caroline Ellison's diary to the press, if that's true, I think it's absolutely damning. As a woman, I would want my ex-boyfriend jailed for that. But that's beyond the point here. So I guess it's just a continuation of this story of SBF being the main bad boy of crypto. And if he ends up in jail before the trial, that would be a significant development of that narrative.
Yeah, it would definitely be a new development. So just to fact check, Dan, he has been in jail once, right? In the Bahamas, he was
That's
first
true.
in jail, but he's not been in a U.S. prison, right? No. So you're correct. So they're awaiting news on that. The prosecutors and the judges have a few days to go through all this. The defendants are also looking at it. For right now, it looks like there is some sort of tape, for lack of a better word, over SBF's mouth. He's not able to speak to anyone in the meantime. They're looking at possibly extending that further by placing him in prison. He has his first set of going to court in October and then follow up in March as well on some different allegations. Some big news there. I want to go over to the extradition treaty. This is sort of an interesting thing, I think, in terms of crypto, the fact that we have borderless money, but that doesn't mean that the law is necessarily borderless. The U.S. was going after SBF for a lot of different things, right? From securities violations to wire transfer, and then even the things that they just dropped were dealing with campaign finance laws, right? Where SBF and a lot of his executives gave a ton of money to different politicians, and they broke campaign finance laws by not only using money that was essentially taken from customers, but also, I believe, by just like giving too much money to certain candidates. Those allegations are being dropped right now by the Department of Justice, and that's because of the extradition treaty. So back when he was first extradited to the United States, he was only charged with about 5 different violations, including like wire fraud and securities fraud. And the other allegations and points were brought against him afterwards, after he was brought back to the United States. But because of this extradition treaty, they had to drop a bunch of these. I've already seen some people on Twitter talking about this, saying that like this isn't fair. He should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But I think it's just fair to point out like there's extradition treaties for a reason. These things exist, and no matter what, you have to abide by them. That's just how it works. So that is why those different points are being dropped. Jen?
Yeah, I think your point is fair there. The law exists for a reason, and they are operating within the law. That is not to say that there are not several very damning charges that Sam Bankman-Fried is still facing. And so this campaign finance charge is not the only one, right? So he's still facing many, many years behind bars if indicted.